All right, Solly. Of course, the team I'm talking about is the Buffalo Bills, and that means we are moving to the AFC East. Look, we all saw what happened on Wednesday. You wrote the story. You were all over everything. I don't even know how you had a free minute. You did the emergency podcast. I read the story on .com. Solly, did you even have a free minute yesterday? Did you talk to your wife at all? What was your Wednesday like?
Hilarious enough, my mom was over and she was so she was just coming by to say hi. She was in the neighborhood. And I'm like, I gotta go. I'm like, good to see you, Mom, but I gotta leave. I got stuff going on, and so that was funny. But no, it was a busy day. But but those days are great because you have the off season, especially in the next few months post draft. It gets pretty boring. And so you don't really, as much as we could talk about, oh, someone's making a post June cut or something like that, like, fine, great. That's all well and dandy. But I want the blockbuster trades. Those days are fun for me. The hours go by fast. So that was good.
So obviously, Diggs gone. It feels like receiver is what the Bills need the most.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and this is what I said yesterday. It's kind of crazy how it got to this point and the cupboard is just completely bare in Buffalo. Me and Josh were talking about it. Like, the writing was on the wall that something had to give here with Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills. It just was devolving into such a toxic situation that it almost felt inevitable that they were going to, in some way, shape, or form, part ways. And so the fact that you kind of have this looming over your franchise and you didn't really prepare for it. Yeah, okay, you drafted Dalton Kincaid, who is a pass catching tight end who will help cushion the blow of losing Diggs, certainly. But you look at this wide receiver room, you didn't keep Gabe Davis, who had proven to be a clutch option and a trusted option for Josh Allen. It just seems like they kind of got caught with their pants down a little bit. Like, ooh, we did not think it was going to devolve as quickly as it did. And so now it's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of try to land on their feet here. So I gave them a C minus, I believe, in the grades, just because it doesn't feel like they were as prepared as they probably could have or should have been at this position. And now you're sitting here at number 28 overall. You're going to have to trade up to get one of these, probably these top tier guys, or unless you're hoping for that second tier player to really burst onto the scene or what have you. But boy, you got to really start to look around and see if there are any trade opportunities to move up. And I don't know if there's going to be a clear cut way to do it.
Yeah, they're really in a horrible spot in the first round, picking at 28th overall when it comes to getting a receiver. Because at that spot, you're really staring at probably getting the fifth or sixth best receiver in the draft. Maybe you end up with Lad McConkey, but you're not getting Marvin Harrison Jr., not getting Malik Neighbors unless you make some insane deal. And not that Lad McConkey's bad, but I don't know that he is talented enough to replace someone like Stephon Diggs, especially as a rookie. So yeah, that is a huge question mark. And I agree with you. It does feel like that maybe the Bills were thinking, Stephon's been some drama, but we don't need to do anything. We got to keep him. And then things just went past the point of no return. And now you're dealing him away. I also think interesting with Buffalo is that they dumped both their safeties. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, both gone. And look, I saw the Bengals homer here. I've seen what happens when you try and do that. They let Jesse Bates, Von Bell. They said, you know what, we're going to start over at the back end. And it's not as easy as it sounds, especially when you're starting over with two guys. So I think that the Bills absolutely need to look at that. And I think if a receiver doesn't fall in their lap at 28, that maybe they look at a safety.
Yeah, I see that. Secondary in general, I think, is a need for them. You talk about the safeties, but you let Tre'Davious White go as well. Like, I know that he was battling injuries over the course of his tenure there, but when he was right, you're talking about an all-pro caliber corner, and you're in a division now where there's Tyreek Hill, there's Jalen Waddle, there's Garrett Wilson with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. You are trying to still be in this Super Bowl window, and you haven't really, both ways. You're not helping yourself in the passing game, and you're not really helping yourself to defend the pass. In a conference where you have Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow on top of those guys that I just mentioned in the division, you're not really setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, that is rough. So Buffalo, good luck. Good luck. Do you feel like they're still a Super Bowl contender? Or you keep them in that kind of top 5 or 6 teams, or you think they've dropped down a peg because of what's happened?
I think that they dropped down a little bit, but I mean, you still have Josh Allen. And when you have that elite quarterback, as we saw last year, we just talked about it with the Chiefs, and they might be a little bit of a different case, but we were talking about their wide receivers all year, and that didn't seem to stop them. So as long as they have that elite quarterback in Allen, I still think that they'll be in that conversation. Like, great, for instance, one of the things we wrote yesterday was biggest contenders to the Chiefs, top 5 contenders in the AFC. I had them at number 5. It's not
Yeah.
bad, but that's right kind of where they are.
And mentioning that obviously they still have Josh Allen, but the difference with the Chiefs not having receivers is the Chiefs also have one of the most brilliant offensive minds in NFL
Absolutely.
history. And not to take anything away from Joe Brady, but he's not Andy Reid. So, that changes things a little bit too. All right, let's go to producer Harry's favorite team. So be gentle, Tyler, be gentle here. The Miami Dolphins. Look, Dolphins lost a couple huge free agents. We saw Christian Wilkins walk. He got a monstrous contract. We saw Rob Hunt walk. He got a monstrous contract. It felt like they were in the bargain bin at Walmart, kind of looking for free agents. And based on what they've done so far, what do you think they still need to do?
I think it's defensive line just kind of across the board. Obviously, you lose Christian Wilkins. You have a bunch of edge players coming back from pretty significant injuries. So if you can address that in some way, shape, or form at the NFL draft, I think that makes all the sense in the world. I did have a sneaky one, though, that I just do want to, throw out there. I think the easy one to say is the defensive line. And I don't know if producer Harry will agree with me or not, but to me, I still think offensive tackle, left tackle is something we need to talk about, because the elephant in the room is that Teron Armstead, for as talented as he is, the dude just can't stay healthy. You can't rely on him on a week-to-week basis. And, you look back over the last few years, I don't think he's played. No, he hasn't. He hasn't played a full season in his career at this point. So it's just kind of the story on him. But since he's been in Miami over the last 2 seasons, 13 games, 10 games, been a Pro Bowler, so that's great. But when we're talking about, and there you go, good stat right there, Armstead has played no more than 65% of the snaps while on the Dolphins. For a left tackle, and I know you have a left-handed quarterback, so it's not the blind side tackle, quote unquote, but he's still your number 1 corner, supposed to be the leader of your offensive line, kind of the anchor to this whole thing. Hasn't really lived up to that expectation. So in a deep tackle class, I think that that's something that we should be looking at here for the Dolphins, to maybe get proactive and try to look at somebody for the future with that line.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And that is one thing you do have to take into consideration is you look at what is strong in this draft class, and you have to be looking forward and thinking, all right, Teron Armstead it should be out there this year, but we don't know because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and maybe bringing someone in to replace him. And you know what? Maybe that guy doesn't replace him, but he can take a few snaps, give Armstead a few plays off, or just you have a guy there. You have an insurance policy is what you have. So I like that idea. I think that is absolutely something they should look into. And then, as you mentioned, the defensive line, Christian Wilkins is a huge loss, but again, you go to the draft for that. I think they go offensive lineman or defensive tackle in the draft. One of those 2 spots would probably make the most sense with that 21st overall pick. All right, let's move on to a team who's actually been adding offensive linemen, trying to protect their Aaron Rodgers investment, and that is the New York Jets. They've made some interesting moves, some big moves, if you will, Tyler. They got Mike Williams, traded for Hassan Reddick. They've been making some noise. What do you think they still need to do?
Yeah, I mean, really been making a ton of noise. And so I think that they're in an interesting spot where, they could do a bunch of different things at number 10 overall. They could, they have a ton of quarterback needy teams behind them. So if there's a quarterback there that everybody likes, put the for sale sign, get as much assets as you possibly can. I would not, look down upon them for doing that. I also sneaky think they could take a quarterback there, because that would make a lot of sense with Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles and being, super old at this point. That I think would be sneaky smart by them. But if we're talking about what their overall theme of the offseason has been, it's maximizing what you have with Aaron Rodgers, how much time you have with him right now. You're bringing Mike Williams in on a 1-year deal, Tyron Smith on a 1-year deal. So I think what would fall somewhat in line with that is bringing in another day 1 impact player. And I think that could be Brock Bowers. I would love for them to deepen their tight end room, because right now I think it's only Tyler Conklin, and that's relatively it. And so if you could add that type of young weapon into this offense with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, and Aaron Rodgers will certainly find him the football, I think that'd be a fascinating chess piece to kind of see how he moves around in that Jets offense.
Yeah, I like that. It would be interesting. I love that you threw out the maybe they should take a quarterback. If you want to completely blow up your franchise and have Aaron Rodgers literally quit on the spot, that is the move you would make. I can't even imagine how he would react if the Jets took a quarterback at 10th overall. That would be one of the all-timers. But you know what? When the Packers did it, Rodgers won 2 straight MVPs. So maybe it's the move that spurs him to even more greatness. Yeah, I love tight end. And this is an odd one. I actually think maybe wide receiver, and this isn't just draft, just wide receiver help in general. Because yes, they did sign Mike Williams, that we just had this conversation about Teron Armstead. Can Mike Williams stay healthy? He's had a little bit of trouble with that. And then you look at the rest of their depth chart at receiver, and it's not great. So you don't have a lot behind Garrett Wilson. Now, if Mike Williams plays like he did in 2022 or even 2021, then yeah, you have a great 1-2 punch with Wilson and Williams, but there's no guarantee that's going to happen. This is a guy who missed 14 games last season. So I would be at least considering receiver. And you mentioned the trade back. Maybe you trade back from 10th and you can get a receiver at 15th, 16th, 17th, whoever you end up trading with. So yeah, it sounds like we agree that get Aaron Rodgers some weapons should be the theme here. One more team. I'm not even going to talk. I don't even need to talk because this is Sully's team. He's got the banners behind him. Sully, what do the Patriots need to do to get another banner so that you can put another one behind you?
I joke, to pull the curtain back a little bit, we have a rundown that we write, our answers in so we can see what we're going to be talking about. I wrote everything as a joke. It's clearly not everything, even though it kind of is. It's really quarterback, right? And they have the number 3 overall pick. They need to figure that out. I mean, look at what the Houston Texans, how differently we think about them than we did a year ago. The fact that they were able to find CJ Stroud and able to strike on that pick. And now it just feels like they're in such a hyperdrive because they have the young head coach. They have the young quarterback. They're able to make these moves like we saw with Stephon Diggs. When you have Stroud on his rookie contract, it's everything that an NFL franchise wants. And the Patriots are currently in a position to possibly do that because they have the number 3 overall pick, whether that's Jaden Daniels or Drake May. That's the route they probably will go down and should go down. The only thing that I would say is that they also are not the best landing spot for any of these quarterbacks. If we're being totally transparent, does any one of these quarterbacks want to go to New England, considering that the wide receivers are still somewhat questionable, the offensive line is terrible. So if you're a young quarterback, you say, okay, great, I'm the number 3 overall pick, but then you have to actually play in New England. They saw what the development or how it was lack of development with Mac Jones over the last few years. I would be very wary. So, this is a team that has a lot of needs. Could they trade out and then decide to go, trade with Minnesota for number 12, 11 or whatever it is, number 11, 23 and a first next year, and they just go the slow route? That's possible. They have a lot of needs, but to me, I would still go quarterback. Give yourself that shot, whether it's Drake May, Daniels, or JJ McCarthy. Give yourself that at bat to find that elite quarterback.
Well, I'm glad you ended with that because I was actually just going to ask you directly, Sully, if you were the general manager, are you taking the quarterback 100% or are you looking to trade down so you can plug some other holes? Because it does feel like offensive tackle, wide receiver are both needs, and those are 2 spots that are very deep in this draft.
You would have to. It would have to be historic haul. You would have to tell me okay, maybe not historic, but I'm just using Minnesota as the example because they have the capital that would make sense. I guess if you tell me 11, 23, I don't know, Jordan Addison and what, you got to blow me out of the water where I am being able to address offensive tackle. I'm maybe getting a wide receiver or have an opportunity to draft a wide receiver. And I could still take my at-bat with a quarterback. For all, we could just say, hey, listen, if Michael Penix is there at number 11, then sure, we draft Michael Penix as well, and you move on with those other selections. Fine. But I want to give myself, like I was saying, the best opportunity if I'm the GM to have an elite quarterback. And where do those quarterbacks typically come from? they come from inside the top 5. And I know that it's not perfect, and I know that's more likely to blow up in their face, but when you have that opportunity, I think you have to take it.
Yeah, that I agree with, that you need to take a gamble, but it absolutely is a gamble. There's just, I mean, you look historically at top draft picks, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud right now. Right now, if you redid that draft, everyone is taking CJ Stroud over Bryce Young, even though Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick. So you just never know. I mean, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance were the 2nd and 3rd overall picks in 2021. I don't think anyone would do those picks over again. So it really is, it's such a crapshoot. But, if you pass on Jaden Daniels and he goes and wins 3 Super Bowls with another team, you're regretting that forever. We don't want Tyler to be regretting anything forever. So let's hope the Patriots take a quarterback.